Hey there, it's Jordan, live from the demolition of the middle class, Altoona, Pennsylvania, or the former rail capital of America. We're kind of in an old, what would you call this? Kind of like a scrap yard?
Steel yard.
An old steel yard. I was here a couple years ago when I was on another reporting tour, and this used to be kind of one of the biggest rail steel hubs in America, because I was here like 5 years ago and the little downtown looked like an episode of The Walking Dead. There was like boarded up everything. I think a few stores were still open, but most of them kind of were closed down, or it was really kind of dead downtown.
Yeah.
But they've been recently trying to gentrify it.
Yeah, if you've got the money to spend, you can go over there and get an $8 coffee, or maybe throw some axes, but other than that, there's not really anything for the working people to enjoy.
I'm a nursing student. I also work for a small business, so I work at a boutique, but for the most part I'm a stay-at-home mom. I had to leave my medical profession because I couldn't afford daycare. My paychecks were literally going for daycare, so I said, what's the point of working when I can be a stay-at-home mom and not pay for daycare? Now I'm like, do I drop out because I can't afford to get to a college that is already cheaper for me to go to, or do I just try to make it by to become a better mother and to provide for my family, because I have 6 kids to provide for, so it's tough. I grew up struggling. I grew up in this area watching my mom struggle with addiction and like not having a job, and like I had to grow up fast for my age to provide for my siblings, and it's a shame that I'm still doing it 10, 15 years later with the kids that I actually have.
Right.
And if I would get pregnant right now, I would have to decide if I want to keep that child or abort it, because I can't afford to feed another mouth. I can barely afford to feed the mouth that I have in my home.
And what about you, our resident local candidate? You ran for mayor, for city council.
Yes.
Pretty right-wing area, pretty Republican area, so you didn't win, but you know.
Yeah, running as a Democrat.
What's your name, by the way?
My name's Bridgette Jackson. In 2019, I did run for mayor. I lost, unfortunately, in my primary against the other candidate. And then in 2020, myself along with 3 other people ran against the Republicans, but again we lost, but what do you do? My husband and I both left our old job and both went to work for them. We took a pay cut, and I was really concerned, like, you know, if we take this pay cut, are we going to be able to make it? But actually we were paying so much for our health insurance at the old employer. We were paying about $1,000 a month just to cover our family, on top of having a $4,000 deductible. So, you know, there were times when we had to be like, are the kids really that sick? Can we really afford to take them to the doctor? Or can we just wait this out?
Not so good at during a pandemic.
Yeah. But, you know, now we switched, and I make more money than I ever have, but it really doesn't feel like it. You know, we're fortunate, my husband and I both work full-time jobs. We make, you know, decent money, but it's still a struggle paycheck to paycheck. You know, if something would break in our house, I don't know where we would find the funds to fix that. I need new tires for my car, so, you know, trying to budget that when, you know, you going to the grocery store used to be maybe $150. Now it's close to $300 for everything that we need. One of the biggest employers that we had was a place that I worked for almost 10 years, and with call center, it was a call center, so the lifespan of those is normally 10 to 15 years, and they try to target areas like this where they know they're going to get a lot of people that are going to apply and need jobs, and then work through everybody. But so I worked there for almost 10 years, and then they were starting to send people from our center over to the Philippines to train people, and that was kind of my cue that, like, this is not going to end well. And they just shut the whole center down about 2-3 months ago.
Right.
And a lot of people lost their jobs because they didn't have positions, or they weren't willing to pay the wage that those people were at now to go with another company.
I was also a telephone service worker for a long time, and then I was actually a server. And serving wages in PA start at $2.15 an hour. I don't know if anybody's aware of that.
$2.15?
Yeah, because you're supposed to make tips to make up for it. So I was doing serving in the day, and at night I was delivery driving to try to make ends meet. And then I got hurt. and I can't serve. And I went back for my delivery job, and they said that they couldn't afford to pay people because of gas prices. So I don't have a delivery job anymore.
So let's backtrack. You tore your ACL?
I destroyed my ACL. They had to rebuild me one, yeah.
Wow.
And I had to have my meniscus repaired. I completely blew out my knee, basically, and they had to do 4 surgeries to repair it.
What was your bill for that?
I haven't looked. Probably quite high. I'm on Medicaid. I do qualify for Medicaid, so I'm hoping it covers the majority of it because it was necessary. But they made me go to physical therapy before they did the surgery, and that actually caused more damage than it did help. But because of being on Medicaid, I had to do it that way. I have 3 kids with disabilities, and I have to go back and forth. This is one of my daughters, back and forth to Pittsburgh all the time. And us going down to Pittsburgh for my son weekly right now is like $150 a week just for us to go make sure that he's getting the care he needs.
That must be kind of infuriating when you're filling it up and realizing like these stations are making record profits.
Well, that oil companies are making record profits and we're paying that much per gallon is ridiculous. And everybody wants to blame each other, either Republican or Democrat or whatever, but it's not. We have to look up instead of looking across. You're not the reason my gas prices are up. You're not the reason my gas prices are up. The power holders who hold the stocks for those oil companies, the people who own those companies, are the ones that are making sure that we're paying out the nose for something we can't afford, and they're the ones killing the economy. It's not you and me. We're just everyday people trying to get our basic needs met. We're not the enemy.
I go to the local school in Altoona. I was actually born in Oklahoma, but I was basically raised here. The only issue with saying that is that I grew up in the foster care system and not by any of our choices. I was in Huntington, I was in Bedford County, I was everywhere. So I left Altoona for a good bit of time. I came back and this is not my home anymore. I came back and inflation has taken over my friends and family's lives. And I don't really know what I can do about that as a person except speak out, get the story out that this is real. This isn't propaganda from the Democratic or the Republican Party. This is real people that are struggling no matter where they are from. And it's not just Altoona, but Altoona is really being hit hard right now.
And as a young person, you're told oh, go to college, get an education, and live the American dream. How's that working out?
How do I go to the college of my dreams if it's only accepting those of the upper middle class or higher? How do I go to the college of my dreams if it's not accepting minorities as much as they should be? How do I get this education without paying an arm and a leg for it? I've always wanted to go to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, whatever. I've always wanted to better myself, get educated, and do that live the American lifestyle. And then I sort of woke up. And I realized that how much pressure that would put on my family and how much pressure that would put on me.
I worked briefly for the Democratic Party of Pennsylvania, and that was 2018, we had a slate of candidates that I was volunteering for here, and then they hired me. And instead of paying me to work here with those candidates, they sent me about an hour up to State College because that was more viable, and they just wanted to run the vote totals up in the areas that they could, and there was they didn't even care really. There was never a discussion about what are the issues that affect the area, why are you interested in being here and helping us with this. It was just, we need to raise money and this is where it makes sense for us to spend our money.
So not hey, why is this whole area Republican? Why, what can we do to persuade voters? Just
I looked, they had 112 targets in Blair County, which is a county of 100,000 people. There are 112 people here that they felt it was worth their time to talk to and see how. And you're just never going to win people over if you don't at least make the effort to contact them. We're talking about inflation, but that's a year-ish kind of. There's been something called gentrification, which is permanent inflation,
for like 10, 15 years.
Right.
Even here, like housing has been going up for a while.
Yeah, housing's going up, but no one can afford to, pay their rent. And you never know, like tomorrow I could be homeless. Like we're living paycheck to paycheck and we own our house, thankfully, but who says next month we can't afford to pay our mortgage? We're living out in the streets because we don't have much family here, many friends. Who's going to take 8 people in, So just everything's rising. When I first got my car, it's a 2016, it was $25 to fill up. Now it's probably close to 60, 70, and that's me driving to school, filling that up 3-4 times a week,
I had to count change the other day to put gas in my car to get my daughter to where she needed to go. Like, yeah, it's a struggle, it's a scrape, and gentrification has happened in Altoona. The major contributor to that would be the UPMC Corporation here in Altoona, who, by the way, does not pay any taxes on any of the lands that they operate on because they are a nonprofit organization that just paid their CEO, a $3 billion raise? Yeah, but they're nonprofit, so they don't pay any taxes.
What kind of company are they?
UPMC is a healthcare company.
Oh.
They own
everything.
Yeah,
based out of Pittsburgh.
Monopolized.
We used to have 2 hospitals in Altoona, and Altoona was actually the foundation for this. I don't know if you guys know this, but they bought both the hospitals, and then they closed the one so they didn't have any. I believe they call that a monopoly. They didn't have any, competition. And then the nearest hospital other than Altoona that we can go to is 45 minutes away.
I'm sure they're donating to the city council and the mayor.
To the right people, yeah, I'm sure they are too.
Just lobbied our city council just this past month, changed the zoning laws, so now UPMC can rent them housing, like company housing, and do it so in like a dorm style manner where you don't have to have your own kitchen, bathroom. You can just have everybody renting individually in one unit like you would in a dorm.
Lovely. Yeah.
So, and then in this very same article where they're announcing this change, they also complain about unhoused people downtown sleeping on benches.
Yeah.
So they're actively, in one sentence, making it harder to afford housing, and in the other...
I mean, honestly, the housing here, I'm going to say this, and probably I'm going to be very unpopular for it. The housing authority here doesn't really care about the tenants; they care about the landlords. And
that's not just here, by the way. But yeah.
You can have. Well, here we have something called a legal 10-day eviction, where you can literally have a house, and 10 days later you can have no house and nowhere to go. And it's legal here in Altoona without any type of warning, without anything. And you don't even have to be behind on rent. The landlord can just say, "Oh no, I want them out." And you have 10 days to get all your belongings out of your house and find somewhere else to live. And if you can't make it in that 10 days, oh, sorry, so bad, too sad, sorry about your luck. And we have like massive amounts of mobile home parks, like a half hour away from here, that are full with families that have nowhere else to go because they lost their housing.
And let me ask you, because this is Trump country.
Yeah.
So what kind of tactics did it take to kind of, I mean, a lot of right-wingers came out for that George Floyd protest. What do you think did it? Was it just because it was so outrageous, even the Republicans couldn't stand for it, or?
I mean, we chose our wording very carefully. It was a march. It wasn't a protest. We did a march. We did a lot of things that were very symbolic from like things that Martin Luther King did, to make sure that people understood that we were a nonviolent movement, that we were just organized to make change and to bring awareness to those issues.
So let's be clear, that did not stop people showing up with AK-47s.
It didn't stop the opposition. However, they didn't have a leg to stand on as far as accusing us to be violent when they were the ones that were removed from the area and none of us were being violent.
And the ones online saying they wanted to run us over with their cars.
Or sending me death threats to me and my daughter. Like, let's be real.
That was something.
Yeah, somebody actually did kill our dogs.
Wait. Hold up. Somebody killed your dogs at this thing?
Rat poison all over our yard.
They poisoned our yard, and 2 of our dogs died. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I was organizing.
A George Floyd protest.
Yeah.
My wife's watching right now, crying hysterically. So
I'm trying not to cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying not to cry.
It's like, people like these people, it's like the people I need in my life to be an ally. And I'm sorry your animals died, but I'm so grateful for you.
It hasn't shut me up. It made me fight harder. That's much I'll tell you. Now I fight for them as well as for us. Okay.
And people don't realize, I have a mixed child, he's black and white, and I have to teach him both sides. Someone shouted the N-word at him the other. He's 2. What does that? How does that make you feel better? Yelling that at my son, he can't barely speak, and I have to teach him what that means, or what did he say, mommy? It's just very frustrating. But we need people to stand up and speak up, and that's what it's gonna take. I hate social media, but love it because you can get your word out there. You can spread the word. And I think a lot of people are scared, especially in a conservative area, to stand up against their family members who they so love their whole lives. But someone that loves you is not going to shut you down for standing for basic rights. What does my skin color, my gender, or anything like that have to do with you going on about your day? How am I affecting you daily?
At a certain point, we can't keep marching around the same streets, chanting the same things, expecting a different result. So what are your thoughts on the way forward?
I think it is possible. I think we've seen it. I think we've seen it work, unfortunately, with the George Floyd things, there was a lot of good that came out of that, the body cams. There was a lot of good that came out of those protests. But those were specific demands that we were making, and we weren't going to stop until they were met.
Yeah.
So that has to be our attitude. We are protesting with this purpose, and unless this happens, we're not going to be defeated, we're not going to be detoured, we're going to keep going.
And one thing I would advise, not a political strategist, don't let the media off the hook. It's not enough to protest politicians. What the fuck is the media doing?
Oh,
I don't see them out here talking to you.
We barely got any coverage when I was running for mayor and city council. Our candidates barely got any coverage at all. But there was 2-page spreads of things for the Republicans, because money talks around here. I think when I ran for mayor, I spent under $500 because I don't have the money to spend.
The best forms of protest are disruption of some sort. The best union organizing is when you're disrupting their products, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have some sort of a purpose or disruption to make it uncomfortable for them, so they can understand a little bit about the uncomfortable level that we're living every day. And if it doesn't do that, if it doesn't have a purpose, if it doesn't achieve something, it's just walking around in a circle. You have to do it with a purpose.
If we don't unionize, if we don't gather together for a cause despite color, race, ethnicity, gender, however you want to identify me as, despite all of that, we are human and we deserve rights. Here's the thing. If you build from the bottom up, what happens? You get a sturdy foundation. If you start, it's like a Jenga piece. If you start, building on the top and taking from the bottom, eventually everybody collapses. So, it's that whole thing where if we burn, you will burn with us.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.